Hey there, everyone. I just wanted to put a little note up front here to let you know now it's two parts for Pink Floyd instead of one. We did it again. We went for over an hour talking about Pink Floyd. You could probably forgive us for that. Anyway, here's part one. Hey, folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. We're looking forward to telling you all about our experiences with Pink Floyd and visiting their entire discography and kind of getting you caught up on where we started with them and where we ended with them individually. We both ended at different spots in their discography slash career. Um, but yeah, so Adrian, I'm sure you remember when Another Brick in the Wall became a hit. Even though we were kids at the time, I had no idea who Pink Floyd was, and I was in junior high at the time. This is 79 or 80 or something, and all of a sudden, I mean, junior high, there is no better tailor-made song in the world than Another Brick in the Wall. Hey, teacher, leave us kids alone,
Yeah,
and all that. I mean, every
education.
every lunch, this is going to show, 1980, folks, but every single lunch hour, we would walk into that cafeteria, the boom boxes would be everywhere, and then we don't need, it's the whole thing, and whole rooms doing it every day for like weeks. So that was my introduction to Pink Floyd, and I heard the album soon after that. One of my good friends, Chris Nesjar, had it, and so we would hang out at his place and evaluate that and other records of the day. But that's another story. So, Adrian, what was your own experience first learning about the band and getting involved?
I also first heard of Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall, probably about the same time you did. I was in grade school at the time.
Was it on the charts at the time?
It was on the charts.
Yeah. Okay.
It was on the radio. It was all over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, a couple of years later, I actually got the album, and I
Nice.
also
Nice.
got Dark Side of the Moon, and
That's
that's
great.
what everybody was listening to, so I listened to
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's a little ahead of things, but I'll just go to that part of the collection first. I mean, after getting the Wall, which I won't talk about yet, because I don't think I actually bought the Wall at the time, because at that point we are fairly poor. We're young guys, young kids, and money, what allowance. That's what that is, and that doesn't buy a lot of records. But I remember getting this, which was the next thing that came out after the Wall, other than a collection of dance songs, which didn't really suit me. And this has a lot of old chestnuts. It's kind of a random compilation of stuff, including unfinished work and just random cuts off of various albums and their first couple of singles. So I got this, and this has like Brain Damage and Eclipse on it, but no other part of of Dark Side. It's got Arnold Lane and See Emily Play. It's got One of These Days. It's got Embryo, but without drums and only 4 minutes long.
Mhm.
And then a track off Obscured by Clouds, a track off on the Gumma. It's like, I don't know what
It
they're thinking.
has drums in it.
No
I
drums.
must have a. I think I only have the version that doesn't have drums in it because I don't
Oh yeah,
remember.
no, this one doesn't have drums. That's what I'm. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably the same one. Would be my guess. It's kind of short. They said it
yeah,
was unfinished,
yeah.
and so they weren't real happy that it came out. I guess it came out without their permission or without their input. So oops. But so that was my first thing, and I said, well, gee, it's pretty interesting. It's awfully eclectic. It also had the several species furry animals, with grooving with a pict, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
some people consider one of the worst songs of all time. It's not really a song. It's more of a sound collage of woodsy sounding creatures in a cave. Uh,
I
we
was
don't
in a
know what they're
waiting room.
doing, but it's
Yeah.
rhythmic and it's
I was
strange.
in a waiting room one day and I was listening to that on my Walkman,
Yeah,
and there were other people in the waiting room. I'm like, what the hell
but
is he listening to?
yeah, no, so it is one of those bands that stimulates the imagination a little. Like, where did this come from? And then somebody else walks in without the proper uh,
Preparation.
yes. And, oh my goodness. So So anyway, let's go back to the very beginning of Floyd. Well, I mean, what happened after that? You know, I bought Final Cut. It's like, getting ahead of myself. I won't tell you about that. But then I decided to go backwards. And I know, actually, I think, Adrian, you went the furthest backwards, the fastest, because I think you were the first one to have Piper at the Gates of Dawn in the house, which is the Floyd's first album, recorded at the same time in the same studio, or Studio A versus Studio B, that Sergeant Pepper was being recorded. And there's some influence there.
And SF Sorrow by the Pretty Things.
Oh, were they all doing it at the same
place at the same time? Yeah,
that's funny, and you can kind of hear it in SF Sorrow too. That's a great album. Maybe we'll get to that someday.
yeah.
But this is just loaded up with all of Syd Barrett's little chestnuts of 3-minute songs that are very highly imaginative. They've been called really original. You don't hear a lot of things like this, except for things now after the fact that sort of emulate it. But this is one of their greatest albums, although it's completely different from anything else they made. Yeah,
it's one of their best albums.
Yeah, I mean, it's run by Syd Barrett. Really, at this point, he's the lead guy, and that's the only album where he runs things. Kind of a sad story. Now, I don't actually have a copy of Saucer Full of Secrets just as the album, but that's the second album. And I think I'm going to go to that before looking at Syd's solo records.
I should mention too, I think I think before I got Piper at the Gates of Dawn, we had this, or you had this, I think, this double record set.
That's what this is.
Yeah, a nice pair.
Nice pair.
I think it came from Canada.
Yeah, and this is pretty rare now too, I think. I think this is probably worth something. So
yeah, the only difference is that on the Piper album, Astronomy Domine is they play the Ummagumma version of that rather than the studio.
Yeah, it's the longer live version from 1969 after Syd's not even in the band anymore. But other than that, it's exactly the Piper album, which was an interesting choice. So this is actually the Piper album and the Saucer Full of Secrets album. And I don't think they have anything close to what the Saucer Full of Secrets cover looks like on here now. But they have something that looks a little like one of Syd's first album.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so, but the Saucer Full of Secrets is mostly Syd free, but not entirely. He gets one more song in, which is a very good song, but also kind of a disturbing song in that he's basically saying goodbye to the band and that he feels like he's fading away. It also has Saucer Full of Secrets, which is one of their early epic tracks. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. Corporal Clegg.
Light is a Remember a Day. Those are two favorites of mine.
Yeah, those are good tracks. By Roger Waters is finally writing material beyond Take Thy Stethoscope and Walk, or and
took over as leader of the band.
Yeah, I mean, someone had to, and he kind of had the personality, So at this point, Syd was kind of circling the drain from too much LSD and possibly just other underlying conditions that made him prone to just not being able to handle the experience of having drugs fed to him or having himself dosed every day by other people without them telling. This is a double album that collects his only two real solo albums. Sorry to say, I don't actually see
and Barrett.
Yeah, and I don't actually see the. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can find the CDs. That's a Madcap Laughs cover.
Oh yeah.
This has
I
great.
think I might have seen that at a record store like way back then.
Oh yeah, you probably did. For a while it was available. Terrapin is a great song. Octopus, Golden Hair. And then this is his second one, just called Barrett, and it's a is that epidemiology? What is it? The study of bugs, entomology?
Yeah. I think so. Entomology.
So I'm not sure what the point was of this cover, but it is quite a nice study for
He
entomologists.
drew it. I know
Uh,
that. He either drew it or painted it.
man, yeah. So maybe I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to venture any guesses.
I think it's just something he drew recently and
Hmm.
decided to put on the album.
Gigolo Aunt is worth hearing, and Dominoes, and
Yeah.
there's a number of things on here. So anyway, and he got help from was it David Gilmour and Richard Wright?
David Gilmour and Richard Wright.
Yeah,
I don't think Roger took part in
I
that
believe
yet.
I believe you're correct about that. Yes, Golden Hair, of course, has lyrics by James Joyce. It's that poem set to music. Anyway, it's very disjointed music. It's clear that there's something wrong with him at that point, or at least he's not getting things across the way he wants to, but he's trying. You know, and the stuff that is coming out is pretty interesting and somewhat brilliant.
You
But
get the impression that maybe he recorded his tracks first and then the other musicians tried to sort of patch everything over it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the only way they could. you know, so this was collecting up other tracks that didn't make the first two albums, including the track Opal, which I think is one of his best tracks. Well, so at that point, Sid was out of the picture. And the band, of course, had been relying on Sid for a lot of their material, and they were still early in knowing how to create songs that did what they wanted them to do. Let's say, so they were taking on a lot of soundtrack work. So this was the next actual release, and it's really just a soundtrack. You almost can't count it like as a true proper Floyd album. Of course, they just put out the Endless River a few years ago, and it's
Yeah.
kind of similar in that it's not really representative of the
There
band.
are a lot of instrumentals on that album.
Most of it is instrumentals, yeah. There are a couple songs I like, Cirrus Minor and the Nile song.
Same here. And
Yeah.
Ibiza Bar is one that I like.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good too. Yep. I always kind of liked the last track, the dramatic theme. It's just kind of a nice. And green as the color is kind of a nice. It's almost like an unfinished track, and it sounds a lot better on the BBC, just like the Embryo, a song we were talking about earlier. Some of these songs, the best way to hear them is in a way that was totally unreleased until maybe a year or two ago when they finally released an exhaustive box set with everything that was available.
Hmm.
All that stuff we collected as kids, the BBC, just it's only the last few years they came out.
Oh. So has it been legalized? I know some of it's bootlegs and stuff.
Well, I mean, whatever they had, the best sources they had. A lot of the BBC stuff sounds great, but I didn't buy it because it was extremely expensive. And I have it already, essentially. I mean, but this is Ummagumma, and this is actually one of the copies from back in the day. I had lost mine, but this is essentially it's identical.
Yeah.
This is made up of a live album. This is 1969, so we're going up in the years.
It's probably my favorite Floyd album, by the way, because
Oh, yeah.
if you're just saying it's a live album and a studio album,
Yeah,
and the studio album, instead of playing everything, they probably played everything as a band, but they took compositions from each of the four members.
yeah,
Kind of gave each member like half of a side.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I really like the live album. I listen to the studio album every so often, but it's not an easy listen. I have to be in a certain mood. And more often, I'll listen to side two, the one with David Gilmour's part and then Nick Drake's.
Norway and
Yeah,
yeah, the Grand Vizier's garden party.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Which is, it's okay. I really have to be in a certain mood. This is a reissue of the same album. I mean,
Yeah.
looks.
What I like about that album, you might have to get really close in order to notice it, but there's like who's sitting in the chair, for example, in the front picture.
Oh yeah, I know they keep
And
Yeah,
then Roger is sitting in the chair and like the picture.
yeah, they all switched positions.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great
yeah.
idea.
It's like they take turns doing,
Yeah,
whatever they're doing.
very interesting concept there, I thought.
I always thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's cool.
speaking of which, so we got there and they're doing great live shows, as we mentioned, but they're still, they're still working on actually creating new material. So bootlegs are coming out of the Sid era at this time. I believe this came out about that time. Maybe it came out later. Maybe this came out in the early 80s, but I bought it about 1985. This is called Dark Side of the Moo. And
Oh,
it's
that.
it's a
Oh, I forgot
bootleg.
all about that. I thought that was Adam Hart Mother.
I know. No, it's the other. Yeah, no, this has tracks. Wait a minute. All of the tracks finally came out years later, but yeah, it had let's see, Candy in a Currant Bun, Apples and Oranges. It would be so nice. Here, wait. So
Yeah.
nice.
Well, I have it actually, and the way I got it was not the way you would normally get an album, but
Yeah.
I looked for all the tracks on like other albums.
Screamed by
I,
Les.
I had I had a tape of Dark Side of the Moon, but that got eaten up or something by a tape player.
Oh, the
And
old days. Yeah.
I just got all the. I was able to gather all the tracks that were on that album. Some of them were hard to find, but
Yeah, I know. I
but
know.
I got all the tracks. I added some of my own from this other collection I have. And like,
Yep. Well, it was Brisky Point and yeah, and then just a lot of like their early singles, really, and the B side and that kind of thing, including when they were trying to write singles after Barrett was gone.
yeah.
And I've got another boot from back then, which is the BBC sessions from 1970, I believe.
Okay.
And Rhapsody in Pink was the name of this one.
Oh, I
uh,
don't think I've heard of that one.
yeah, you see, they're called the Screaming Abdabs,
Oh yeah,
Yeah. But
one of their previous names.
yeah, so it's got all really, this is great. It's a 2 record set. It all sounds amazing. These are board recordings of them playing in 1970, and they just sound fantastic. So yeah, Let There Be More Light, the full embryo, 25-minute echoes, 15-minute Adam Hart Mother,
How
and
many records are you talking about in there in that
oh,
set?
there's two. It's a 2 record
Oh,
set.
just the two records. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's great. It sounds great. I'm sure you have the tracks, Adrian, at some point over the
Probably
years.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got
Be shocked.
a lot of tracks. I don't even know where they came from. But I've got this.
I happen to have the Zabriskie Point soundtrack here
Oh,
too, which this is the legitimate release for 3 of the tracks that were on Dark Side of the Moo.
yep.
Well, so after that, they began work on one of their first big opuses, which was Adam Hart Mother.
Hart Mother.
That was a 23-minute piece that really, I know that when it came out, or actually later, Dave Gilmour said we were really scraping the bottom of the barrel at this time. Now, a lot of fans disagree with that assessment. It's the first time they tried to put something really large together and keep it cohesive. And we got cows down there. Wasn't that nice? Give us cows to look at there.
Big composition for rock band and orchestra.
Yeah, they brought in Ron Giesen, and he arranged the thing, and it had the orchestra. And the orchestra, I understand, we're going a little mad trying to figure out how to play it. But they did play live a few times with the band. I mean, with
I have a live performance somewhere. It was one of those discs that Pup gave me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And side 2 of this is pretty good as well. It's got Roger Waters' "If," which is actually probably one of my favorite songs of Roger Waters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just Roger Waters, Summer '68, a really good Richard Wright song.
Yep.
Interestingly, they took some horns from they must have had the horn players around after Adam Hart Mother, and it's one of the only other tracks I know of that Floyd used a horn section. I mean, sure, they use saxophone, a lot, but they, I don't think they ever used a horn section again. And it's also got Fat Old Son, Dave Gilmour's song, which he's turned into a real jam vehicle in recent years.
Yeah, I've got this I think it was a radio broadcast it was from September 30, 1971. I think it's from London.
Mhm.
And they did a new arrangement of Fat Old Song on that one. Fat Old Son, excuse me.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
yeah, so it was I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes long or something, but it was
Yeah,
really good. They just played the verse and then they go into this jam for a while, and
that's
then
right.
they go into the second verse, and then it's
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with that jam. I remember it. I don't know if that's ever come out. Well, now it has, I guess, if they put out all the BBC
uh,
stuff.
well, I bought a tape in Harvard Square a while back, and that's how I got it. And that's also how I got a clean version of Vegetable Man for the first time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Those were not legitimate releases, though. I don't think. I think there was a lot of
Oh,
bootlegs floating around at that time, but nothing. I mean, I think those only came out,
yeah,
and when this whole big box set came out,
yeah.
that has the the creation and Floyd
Oh,
put out a massive box set, covering everything basically from 67 to 72. And it's got all these goodies on there, all these live shows and everything, really nice sound.
I get it.
Sometimes video of entire shows.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, video. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can
I'm
actually,
going shopping.
yeah, or look on YouTube too after this. Take a look for Adam Hart Mother live. And there are videos out there.
Cool.
Around this time, they also put out Relics, which is a compilation. Again, some of the early stuff, some things off of Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
My
And
introduction to Sid Barrett. I remember we had that album. I was listening to that first, and then I got the Piper album.
okay, yeah. So it had those two great singles. Yeah, and it's got a couple tracks off more, and then a bunch of B sides essentially, and a couple of the singles um, that Dark Side of the Moon didn't have to put out because they were on here, like Julia Dream. You
Yeah.
know,
There's metal.
that's metal. This is actually I just bought this not too long ago, and they must have done something with the cover. I mean, it's the same cover, but it's just much clearer, and it's got slightly better coloring on it.
Yeah.
Um, the one that we got in America, it actually said Pink Floyd metal, and in little type up here, and then it was kind of all washed out blue. And this has all the detailing on it, so it's actually much more interesting to me. Like finally, the cover is interesting after years of just kind of looking at it and going, I wonder what they were thinking. But well, now I know. See, that's an ear. So,
Oh, oh, it is an ear. I thought it was a nose.
yeah. And there we go.
Yeah.
The Fab Four in there. And
Yep. Looks
more like,
very similar to how they looked in the Live at Pompeii DVD.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, just about that time,
Very
really.
good DVD. It has some snippets of Dark Side of the Moon,
Mhm.
like being worked on.
Yep,
Showing like
Pompeii. Yeah, boy.
Pompeii, Live at Pompeii.
They had a really nice echoes on that, which is the centerpiece on this album. That was their big opus on this one. The 23-minute echoes. Um, their first really highly successful sidelong experiment.
Hmm.
I can't get it back in here.
I didn't know it was highly successful. So
What's that?
I didn't know it was highly successful.
Well, I mean, echoes. Yeah, that
Echo.
didn't
Yeah.
do badly. I mean, it
I
didn't.
believe you. I just haven't heard that before. That's all.
No. So that did well for them. And then they were doing a little more soundtrack work. Here we are with Obscured by Clouds.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Apparently, that's a guy in a tree or something. I don't know. And it's
Kind of
just,
obscured and cloudy.
yeah. But you can kind of see it. Like there he is. Hey,
Yeah.
in the tree.
Uh,
And yeah, the movie I've never
yeah,
seen.
there's some better pictures.
Yeah. This
And
is another reissue that I had to get. I don't know what happened. Some of my albums weren't around anymore. But yeah, this has this is just a relaxing album. This is a good driving album because there's not a lot of words on it, really. It's kind of lightweight, but with Pink Floyd, even lightweight is good. And it's got some good songs on it. Like I like "What's the Deal." I think that's a nice one.
Oh, I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah.
That's the one album before Dark Side of the Moon that I haven't listened to a lot.
Hey there. So we've just wrapped up our early Pink Floyd review, which takes us up to 1972, and we're going to start the next one on Dark Side of the Moon and everything forward. Hope you're enjoying it. If you are, please like and subscribe.